Meet the Transfers, Illinois Fighting Illini edition. It's a 5-man transfer class. We're doing this for all of the top 20 transfer classes in the country. You, me, Brian, Ralph, Riley Davis ranked all of them, and we spit out our rankings. And the Illinois Fighting Illini cart are ranked 19th. This is the 19th best transfer class in the country, according to us. Does that feel right to you?
That feels about right to me. Yeah. I pray to God that I did have them around this range in my list.
You ranked them 20th. Brian
Okay.
Ralph ranked them 23rd. Riley Davis didn't rank anybody because he's lazy. And I had them 18th. So I'm the highest on this Illinois transfer class. That's a new taste for me, Cart. I'm normally not the person who's highest on Illinois transfers. Go watch my Marcus Damas footage from last season. We're trying a new flavor this year. We'll see how it goes. It's a 5-man class, as I mentioned. We'll go through player by player. We'll define each player's role, and then we'll give some general thoughts and projections. But before that, I have some questions for you. Number
Please.
one, did Brad Underwood do what he set out to do with this transfer class?
You said this is a transfer video, right, Greg?
It's like a pass fail. Like last year for Field of 68, they were doing grades. This is just a pass fail. Did the coach do what he tried to do with his transfers that he landed this offseason?
With the transfer portal, Illinois fans, no, he did not. I do not think he did. I think that he set out to get some big fish in the transfer portal to play on the wing. I think Humriches was the best add. Now they did add a PG and Kylan Boswell, who I think other people are higher on than I am. But as far as just transfer portal goes, I would give this. I would say no.
Okay, I think you're right. Just a little tweak on it to make it. It's multi-layered. If we're just doing pass fail, I think you're right. It's fail. But this is like the guy who like had a straight A in the class all year. Like he did all his assignments. He turned them all in. He did well. He had an A. And then at the final exam, he flunked the final exam. And it didn't kill his overall grade in the class because of all the work he had done on the front end. But when it was exam time, he failed. That's because if you go through this cart, like all of these ads were early. He got Kai Boswell early. He got Rickhouse early. He got Trey White early. He got Kerry Booth early. He got Jake Davis early. He built the foundation of this team with these guys, knowing he needed to replace a bunch of players and get 11 new guys. And he did that through the transfer portal. I think in that sense, he did what he set out to do. But when final exam time came around and he said, I still need a star, he whiffed on the transfer versions of the guys he wanted and then pivoted to some really, really talented freshmen. Give him credit for pivoting, but specific to the transfer class itself, I think Brad Underwood would tell you out loud he wishes it had an additional star.
Yes, this is a transfer video. Please leave us alone.
Are we going to get slandered for this or not?
Yes. Yeah. There will be another recruiting video that you can tap into, hopefully, but this is a transfer video.
They scored higher in our recruiting rankings. That's coming in a couple weeks, but we're doing the same thing for recruiting classes. They were higher on that list. So there you have it. Number two, what could they have done better? I think we just spoke to it, but quickly, what could Illinois have done better with their transfer class?
I think the initial plan was to get some big fish wing scorer guards initially in the portal, like be in contention for the best wings in the portal. And I think they whiffed on that. So to me, it would have been getting like an AJ Store, that level player. That would have been the one thing I would have changed.
Okay, here's my answer. It's a little different, just not to beat a dead horse. You might tell me I'm not allowed to say it, but this is the whole transfer maneuvering part. I would have not wanted to have 6 outgoing transfers. Like we just talked about how great the Illinois locker room was. Last year's team was not just Terrence Shannon and Marcus Damas. They were huge parts of it. Obviously, they were the biggest drivers of the success. But you had a great locker room full of great role players, 6 of whom still are playing in college next year and chose not to have that be in Illinois. Like Nico Moretti, Luke Goody, Amani Hansberry, Sincere Harris, Dane Danger, and Coleman Hawkins are all playing college basketball again next year. And it's not in an Illinois uniform. So to me, if the whole transfer window for Illinois could have been tweaked, to me, I would have wanted to retain some of these dudes at the expense of a Jake Davis, maybe at the expense of some other guys. I'm not going to name any other names. The only one I really would have preferred is Jake Davis. But it doesn't even have to be the stars, man. You could have just kept Luke Goody, which I get why he left, and I get why Sincere and Amani left. But if you could have kept 1 to 2, maybe even all 3 of those guys, I feel a lot better about this group as a whole. Let's go player by player, and we'll assign a role as we go. We'll work from the bottom up with this team. Bottom in my mind of where they slot in. So we'll start with Jake Davis from Mercer. He's going to be a sophomore. He played 28 minutes a game as a freshman, 9 points a game, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, shot 38% from 3. What's his role on this team? He could be a star, a starter, a role player, or a non-factor.
I think Jake Davis ends up being a non-factor on this Illinois team. Now, I think you hope he maybe takes a path of becoming maybe a Illinois Colt hero, everyday guy by the time he leaves Illinois. But I think given this team, he's a non-factor.
Ooh, ah. If another guy further up on this list hits, he's a non-factor. If he doesn't, he's a role player. Because I do think this team needs shooting, Cart. Now, we think Kasparis can shoot. We think Will Riley can shoot. But, like, Trey White, Kerry Booth shot sub 30% from 3 last year. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn shot 22% from 3 last year. So we know Ty can't shoot. Like, I think if all Jake Davis can do is shoot, and he can shoot it. He shot 38% from 3 on high volume, 155 attempts from 3. Is a true freshman. Like, there's a place for that. Even if it's the Luke Goody role, there's a place for that on this team. I'm going to bank on some of the names higher up the list hitting, though. And if they do hit, I just don't think there's enough minutes to go around. He becomes a non-factor. Let's work up the list, though. Kerry Booth, I think, would be next. Kerry Booth from Notre Dame. He's an incoming sophomore, 6'10". He was a big-time recruit, 4-star kid. Kind of a great system fit with Micah Shrewsbury. Played 19 minutes a game, 6 points, 4 rebounds, shot 39% from the floor, and only 29.7% from 3. Those are not good numbers, but he did kind of start to play better as the season went on. You could see the very high potential, even if there's a low floor. What do you think of Kerry Booth, and what's his role?
Oh, the thing I was leaning non-factor with this one, but I see a world where actually Kerry Booth might find his way to being a role player on this basketball team. Like, what if like there's just a youth movement in the front court and like him and Merez just like emerge and a Visage just doesn't hit or something like that. I don't know. I'm a lean role player because I think saying non-factor is too harsh because I think there's something there with Kerry Booth for all the 2-year plan Illinois fans. That might be your poster boy.
I think he's a role player no matter what, because unless they're just going to scrap a big altogether again, I think there's like 80 minutes to go around between, well, maybe not 80, somewhere between like 50 and 60 or 70 to go around between Merez, Ivisic, and Kerry Booth. Like, I think those guys are going to have to play. And I don't think any of them are 30 minutes a game guys right away. I think this is going to be like a timeshare again. So at minimum, to me, there's like the Dane Danger role available. I don't think Kerry Booth's better than Dane Danger, but I think he's long-term potential through the roof. He could be a starter a couple years down the line. You really believe in him. He also could get recruited over a month from now, though. That's the thing with Illinois. Like, it's if you don't play, he's probably going to get recruited over. So there is a little bit of a time crunch here. But man, he had some good games. He had 15 against Wake Forest, 11 against Clemson, 11 in the conference tournament against Wake. It's 17 earlier in the season against Virginia. 17 against Virginia is like 29 against other teams. I think he's good. I think he's a role player, and that's it. Let's move up the list. Next up is Trey White. Next up is Trey White from Louisville. 31 minutes a game. Good production. 12 points, 5.9 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 46% from the floor, 29.9% from 3. To me, he was the second best player on Louisville next year. What's his role on Illinois, and what do you think of him?
So I'm gonna stay pat right now with that Trey White is a role player, but I think in another exercise I will touch a little bit more on Trey White, but I'm gonna stay pat with role player for now.
Okay. There's a lot of really good players on this team.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard some rumblings from practice at times that Trey White has looked like one of the best players on the team.
Yeah.
To me, if he's going to knock somebody out of the lineup to play minutes on this team, it's Ty Rodgers. And it could happen. Like you could end up with Kylan Kasparis, Trey White, Will Riley, or Rickhouse and a big. Like that could be the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you got to overtake Ty. And I don't think you overtake Ty to start the season because of all the intangible stuff that Ty brings. So I'm going to say a role player. Won't surprise me at all if he starts. I like Trey White's game. I think it'll come down to the shot. If he's making less than 30% from three again, which he also shot 26% from three as a freshman,
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to justify playing a guy that can't shoot when you already have Ty Rodgers, a guy who can't shoot but does everything else so well. So he's got to make shots. He's got to earn minutes that way, but could happen. Guy you love is next, Benham Rickhouse, 29 minutes a game, 15 points, 4.7 rebounds, 1.9 assists, 48% from the floor, 41% from three at Evansville. He is a guy who has really worked his way up through the ranks. Prior to Evansville, he played at Huntington, which is a lower level non-Division I school. What's his role and what do you make of him?
You're gonna hate me, Gregory. You are.
Don't do
Yeah,
it.
I'm
Don't
doing
do
it.
it. Don't
I'm
do it.
doing. Yeah, I
Don't do
am.
it.
Rickhouse is a star. I think he's a star for that. I think he. I think he could be a star for this team. In my head, one of the say what you want about what it looks like as a team, but like it's Kasparis and then Rickhouse is the second best player on this team. He's a star. He's the number 2 star on the team.
Okay, so Kasparis is going to be talked about in the freshman video when we do the Illinois video. But I would assume you would call him a star too. Is that my guess?
Mm-hmm.
So you think Illinois has 2 stars? Do you think they have more than 2 stars?
No,
You think there's 2 and Rickhouse is 2? What does it look like? Like, is this the Mass 2.0? Some people have said that. I think their games are completely different.
no, the games are completely different. Like it's not going to look the same, but I think he has like second star potential, like Robin to Kasparis' Batman.
Okay. Could be right. I've been very wrong before. This is one of those ones you and I are 2 degrees of separation away on.
Like you're gonna say starter, correct?
I'm going to say role player.
Ah,
Just say role player. The comp I keep going to is Quincy Guerrier. I think Benham Rickhouse was a starter, and Guerrier was a starter. Don't get me wrong. I think if you just dropped Rickhouse in Guerrier's shoes on last year's team, he probably starts. But Cart, I think the freshmen are that. Like I think Kasparis and Will Riley are going to start. I think Kylan Boswell starts. I think a center starts. So that leaves there's one spot on this team to start between Rickhouse and Ty Rodgers. If Rickhouse is lights out who you think he is, he's a starter, and you bring Ty off the bench. I don't think he will be. I think he's a role player, catch and shoot guy that can work. It's good, but I don't trust him defensively at this level. I don't trust the foot speed. There's a lot of really good Big Ten fours, and when we did the Ohio State video, we were like, who can Sean Stewart guard at the 4? Who can Rickhouse guard? Is Rickhouse is going to come out and guard Trey Coffin-Renn and Malik Renew and Danny Wolf?
What team are we doing a video on, Greg?
They don't guard. I forgot.
Exactly.
But like,
What exactly? And also, I'm about to put you in a pretzel really quick here before we get to this next exercise. We just did a video on Illinois, and what did Brad talk about?
launching
Doing with the offense.
launching threes, playing fast.
Got you. Okay. I have here this bobblehead is Ty Rodgers. This bobblehead is Benham Rickhouse. You want to play fast and shoot threes. Which bobblehead are you taking?
I did not expect to get bobbleheaded right now, so you're right. You have me in a blender. With that said, hold on. I gotta taste this real quick. Let me just make sure it still tastes the way I think it does. Yep. Yep, it does, Cart. Tastes the same it always did.
Oh no.
Brad Underwood lies sometimes.
Yes. I thought you loved Brad because he doesn't.
I love him. I adore the man, partially because he lies sometimes. Okay. I don't think Brad Underwood saying in July, we're gonna launch threes, we're playing with an 8-second shot clock. I don't think that was a great impression, by the way. Where the hell did I pull that from?
You got him sound like Dickie V.
I don't think it means Rickhouse is a star. Now, the rumblings have been great behind the scenes. So if he is a star, I applaud him. I will eat my words the same way I did with the mask, and I hope I'm wrong. But to me, somebody's got to be the fall guy here. You got six guys who deserve to start. Maybe 7 if you stretch it with Trey White. Boswell, Kasparis, Rogers, Rickhouse, Ty, Trey White, and whatever center you want. To me, I have Rickhouse on the outside looking in. But he's a very, very good role player if that's what he ends up being. Final one is Kylan Boswell. A lot has been made of Kylan Boswell's physical maturation just since he's been in Champaign. He's been in the weight room with Fletch. Body looks great. He looks a lot stronger, obviously. He may have cut down the drinking. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he just got in the weight room. 6'2" point guard. Started a bunch of games for Arizona. He played 27 minutes a game, 9.6 points, 2.3 rebounds, 3.6 assists, 1.4 steals. Shot 38% from 3 and 40% from the floor. Cart, what's his role and what do you make of him?
So I think despite how sometimes you got to put personal feelings aside when you're looking at these teams and what they look like what they look like. 'Cause you never want to make it actually personal, right? And even given my skeptics about maybe Colin Boswell, the player, I think he's a starter for this basketball team. I think. I guess I'm sneezing because I'm talking about Colin Boswell being a certified starter, but I think he is a starter for this basketball team. I think you bring him in early. He's a Champagne kid. Like I just even if he is struggling, I don't see a world where Brad brought Colin Boswell in or Colin Boswell signed up to come off the bench for this team.
Yeah, he's obviously a starter. The question is like, is he a good starter? Is he a great starter? Is he an average starter? Like, even with some concerns, and we mentioned it, there's been buzz for Rickhouse, there's been buzz for Trey White, there's been buzz for some freshmen, but they look great in the gym. The buzz on Boswell has been a little more iffy, but also shout out to our YouTube comments. We're not supposed to talk about things we didn't see in person. So maybe we should throw out all of the buzz from smart people to tell us, yeah, there's some concerns about Kai right now. My concern about Kai is this, Cart. I'd love to read you some numbers real quick. Would that be okay?
Please.
18, 12, 10, 14, 15, 12, 8, 10, 6, 15, 12. Any guess what those are?
Were those his minutes coming down the stretch?
No.
Ah, damn it. What is it?
No, those were his points per game in the first 11 games of Arizona's season. Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Pretty great, pretty consistent, pretty awesome. I'd like to read you 11 more numbers. 6, 9, 17, 19, 10, 5, 2, 4, 20, 2, 3. Those are his numbers in the final 11 games of the season. He's a completely different player. And like he did show signs. Obviously, he had 20 against Long Beach State. I thought he was the best player on the floor that game. He had 19 against Oregon in the final month of the season. Like it's not like he went all the way away, but the bad moments for Kai Boswell were like really loudly bad, and they happened all the time in the final 2 months last season. Even in the middle conference play, man, he just hit a wall. Like he had 0 in 25 minutes against Washington State, 0 in 23 minutes against Oregon State. A guy that is that inconsistent can't really be the face of your team. And I think Boswell was brought here to be the face of the team. Luckily for him, they brought in a guy who's better as the face of the team after they brought him in. So hopefully his role will be not minimized, but he'll be asked to just be a good player, not a great player. And that's good enough for Illinois. The one thing about him I really like, he's a great shooter. Like I buy the shot for real. What was he? Let me make sure I have the numbers. 38% last season from 3. And then as a freshman, he was 39%. So like I think the shooting's for real. And even if he's not an on-ball superstar point guard, he can space the floor for the other creators.
Yeah. I mean, at minimum, floor Kylan Boswell is a high major starter, right? I mean, I don't even I want to mean that as like a slight. He's a starter on a good team, in my opinion. You can't throw away what he did for Arizona and started
100%.
for that team that was really good.
It's also way better than Illinois had at point guard last year, with all due respect. It still worked out. Like,
That's not saying much though.
but Damask being the pseudo point guard last year worked. I
Mm.
still think those guys would have been helped if Kylan Boswell was on the floor to help, get into the actions and things like that. So,
Yeah, I'm with you there.
no, even if we're skeptical, even if we're hearing some things that concern us a little bit, it's a great ad and one that really, really matters. Let's do some superlatives now. Who's the best player from this transfer class at the end of the season for Illinois?
Benjamin.
Ugh. Oh man, I didn't even anticipate this question. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to get cute. I think it's Kylan Boswell.
Okay, that's safe.
Yeah, I don't like. I really wanted to get cute and be like, it's Trey White, but there's one guy out of this class I think is going to start. I think it's Kylan Boswell. Uh, who's the transfer from this group that will improve the most from the start to the end of the season?
I actually went with Kerry Booth on this one.
Really?
Yeah, like what if I mean, he was always a guy out of high school who was like, oh, potential's there, potential's there. Like maybe I'm buying like player development Illinois and like them actually like what if they just unlock Kerry Booth?
Yeah, maybe, maybe. I don't know. Like, what does an unlocked version of Kerry Booth look like to you? Is he starting?
I don't have to answer that question. I'm just saying he's unlocked.
I think he gets unlocked in 2 years. 2 year plan, Cart. Stick to it. I think the guy who improves the most from the beginning to the end of the year is Trey White. More on that in just a moment. But I think Trey White's a very talented basketball player that if he clicks, if things click in the Brad Underwood system for him, it could end up being really special by the end of the year. Might be some road bumps along the way, but I believe. Hot take. Give me an Illinois transfer hot take from this class.
I mean, I don't even know if it's like that scorchingly hot because you'll probably speak on it. Is that Trey White ends up being the best player out of this transfer class?
Why did you just answer him over Hum Rickhouse then for who's the best player in the
Because
class?
I gotta do it because I don't think he's going to be. But like that would be my
Oh,
hot
that's
my
the
hot.
hot take.
I don't believe the hot take. I think that would be the hot take.
So it's just a take. It's not something you believe in at all, but it's a
Do
take.
hot takes actually have to be something you believe in?
They're supposed to be. That's the purpose of the exercise.
Oh, okay. Well, my hot take is that Ben Rickhouse is first team All Big Ten.
That would be better in line. Okay. So you think he could be one of the 5 best players in the Big Ten?
Yes.
That's insane. You should focus on being one of the 5 best players on Illinois, but I hope you're right. My hot take is that Trey White is a starter on this team in the Big Ten tournament.
Is that good for Illinois or bad?
Think it's good. I think it's because
Okay.
Trey White comes along in a big way as the season goes on, and
Got you.
They have to move either Ty or one of the 4s out of the way to make room for Trey White. I can see it.
All right.
I can see it. There you have it. The 19th best transfer class in the country, Illinois basketball. Thank you for watching. One final question for you, Cart. Wasn't on the agenda.
I don't
If
like this.
Kylan Boswell, Benham Rickhouse, Trey White, Kerry Booth, and Jake Davis played a 40-minute basketball game against Luke Goody, Sincere Harris, Amani Hansberry, Dane Danger, and Coleman Hawkins, what's the score?
Oh, I think the team with Dane Danger wins 92-89.
You think it's close?
Somewhat.
I don't think it's close. But thanks for watching the
Wait,
video.
no. Who
There's
wins?
18
Who
other
wins?
of these on the channel.
Who
Subscribe to
wins?
Sleepers Media. We're dropping 3 per day
Who
over the next
wins?
week. Go Illinois
Who
ILL.
wins?
Cart, you know what I love about you?
That I'm handsome?
You're reliable. I can count on you. Honestly, you remind me of Aaron Henry a little bit. Remember when their back was against the wall, nothing was going right, and man just showed up every day. He didn't make excuses. There were no problems. There were just solutions.
Sounds like me.
That's you. And it also reminds me of Duncan Mechanical Solutions, because if you're looking for quality furnace repair, look no further than the heating and air experts that you can trust. Comfort and quality are their standard. They're an HVAC company that serves Northeast Indiana and Southern Michigan, whether it's heating and air conditioning, plumbing, kitchen and bath remodeling, or emergency services when you need them most. Duncan Mechanical Solutions has reliable service that you can count on. Cart, remember when your basement almost exploded?
I remember when my basement almost exploded. I remember when my furnace itself was acting funny. I remember when my AC was acting funny. I wish I had Duncan in my back pocket. I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been anywhere in northern Indiana or southern Michigan that hasn't been perfectly cool or perfectly warm, depending on when the day called for. And that's because of Duncan Mechanical Solutions. They are the presenting sponsor for the month of July. Shout out to Duncan Mechanical Solutions. Go to duncanmechanicalsolutions.com to learn more.